For the past few weeks, I've unplugged my Mac and challenged myself to use an iPad Pro as my main desktop computer. And surprisingly, it wasn't what broke that stood out to me, it was what actually didn't. With iPadOS 26, Apple's clearly pushing the iPad closer to a true Mac alternative, so I wanted to see if it could actually hold up in a desktop scenario. I've used the iPad Pro as my only computer, testing external display support, app compatibility, scaling quirks, gaming, and just day-to-day performance. For this test, I built out a proper desk setup. I used the M4 13-inch iPad Pro connected to the CalDigit Thunderbolt 4 docking station, powering my LG 32-inch dual-mode OLED display and my Kanto Tux speakers. My peripherals include a Newfie mechanical keyboard, an ESR Bluetooth mouse, and a 2TB NVMe Thunderbolt SSD. Once connected, you can choose to either mirror your iPad screen or use extended display. And mirroring is just like a bigger version of your iPad, but the extended display mode is what gives you that second independent workspace, and that's where the desktop feel really starts to kick in. The iPad itself is front and center on a Grove-made stand, and thanks to the touchscreen, it surprisingly feels useful. Tapping through tabs, scrolling, entering quick data, it's often faster than actually reaching for the mouse. The Apple Pencil became part of my workflow too. I don't sketch or draw, but I do sign a lot of PDFs, and being able to open, sign, and send without switching devices was actually a big win. Face ID adds another level of convenience, so like unlocking, autofilling your passwords, approving payments, just like glance and go. And because the iPad has to stay open because it doesn't support clamshell mode, Face ID just works like all the time. For my recent video calls and recordings, I've been using the Tiny 3 webcam from Obsbot, and they were kind enough to sponsor this video. It's the smallest 4K webcam I've ever used, but it feels like pro gear. Aluminum build, dual axis gimbal, excellent heat management, and great video quality. 4K at 30 frames per second or 1080p at 120 frames per second for super slow motion. Autofocus is fast, colors are spot on, and the directional mic keeps your voice clean even in noisy rooms. What really sets the Tiny 3 apart is the AI-powered experience. It can track your face and your movements in real time, so if you move around, it'll just keep you centered basically all the time. You can also trigger it with gestures like being able to zoom in and then also zoom back out. And there are also some voice commands as well, like being able to say hi Tiny to wake up the webcam and sleep Tiny to turn it off. Audio wise, it has 5 unique mic modes that adapt to like different recording situations, from a solo voiceover to like a multi-person podcast, and it even includes sound source localization. So it knows who's speaking and like focuses on them automatically. You can also adjust the noise reduction levels directly in the OBSBOT Center app, which is just great for like tuning it to your space. If you're using the Vox SE wireless mic, setup is instant, just power it on and go. You get flexible placement, clean audio, and one tap controls to stop and start recording or even toggle the tracking mode. For content creators, it's packed with smart tools. There's a teleprompter mode for just like helping read your scripts naturally. There's picture-in-picture recording and a whiteboard and desk modes that automatically frame your content for your presentations. And here's something new. The Tiny 3 now supports virtual avatars, remote control for live sessions, and full compatibility with the Switch 2. So if you're into streaming, this opens up some seriously cool workflow options. Overall, the Tiny 3 makes filming feel pretty effortless, whether you are streaming, whether you're presenting, or just like jumping in and out of Zoom calls. Big thanks to OBSBOT for sponsoring this video. If you want to check out the Tiny 3, there is a link in the description down below. Multitasking in iPadOS 26 really surprised me. The last time I tried this, multitasking felt awkward, it was functional but frustrating, and this time it actually feels good. You can resize windows freely, move them around, and have multiple apps open at once. In my setup, I'm running like my usual apps, so Safari, Apple Music, IA Writer, ChatGPT, and sometimes Notion or Slack, all open side by side, and snapping them into columns feels fast and responsive. I'm using slide over as well. I usually keep things 3 just floating in there to manage my tasks without breaking my flow. When I'm focused, so writing scripts, planning videos, the iPad helps me stay in the zone. There's less clutter and just fewer distractions. And for the first time, we get a real menu bar just like macOS. You can access settings, window controls, and shortcuts instantly. No more digging through nested menus just to find one toggle. And some apps, thanks to iOS, are actually better than like the browsers, like Threads, Twitter, Instagram. They look and feel great on a large display. Photomator really stands out. It feels like a full desktop photo editor. I edited tons of photos from my CES trip right on the iPad, and not once did I feel like I needed to switch over to my Mac. One of the best parts is that the iPad still works as a second display. So while your monitor runs the main workspace, the iPad remains just touch ready. And I often use it for like music, notes, or just running reference apps. Even gaming held up. I tested several Apple Arcade titles while using both displays, and performance was smooth, no real noticeable lag. With iPadOS 26, the Files app finally feels usable. You can set default apps for file types, views are a lot cleaner, and it actually feels like a tool built for people who handle files all day. There is still some friction though, like connecting to my NAS, for example, is super annoying and clunky. Like you have to know the IP address of the NAS because there's no like network sidebar or no way to like see things that are on your network in iPadOS like on macOS. A huge upgrade though is background tasks, as before if you were moving a big file, the Files app had to stay open front and center, but now you can actually start your transfer and keep working on your iPad. This really saved me at CES as I was uploading over like 50 gigs of footage to my NAS with just the iPad, and I kicked off the transfer, but I kept writing my scripts, responding to Slack messages, and even editing photos. There's no slowdowns, no crashes, it just worked. Apple also brought over the preview app, so full PDF editing, signing, and autofill is now built in, and it's nearly identical to the macOS version, and that alone was one of the biggest reasons I used to reach for my Mac. But of course, it's not all perfect, so let's talk about the quirks. First, audio. You still can't play two sources at once, so if you're switching from YouTube and then you play like another video or you start Apple Music, everything pauses and only plays one stream at once. Screenshots are actually a bit clunky. There's no way to like select things like on macOS, so you have to take like a full screenshot, crop it, and then hit copy and delete just to avoid cluttering up your Photos app. And probably the biggest thing is keyboard shortcuts are just inconsistent. Pasting without formatting, for an example, like Command Shift V works on the Mac, but on iPad it's Command Option Shift V, and even then it's barely even reliable. Mouse support feels close, but not quite native. Trackpads are way better, but like the ESR mouse I was using, just it feels good on macOS, but it's like 95% on iPad. External displays still are a little messy, so if like you move your cursor too quickly towards the top, it'll just jump to the other screen unexpectedly. But by far the biggest limitation is actually apps, which is really kind of crazy because for like the longest time, apps were what was pushing iPadOS and making the iPad feel more like a computer, but now Apple has caught up, and really it's the apps that are now holding us back. Final Cut Pro is now on the iPad, but it's missing a ton of desktop features. There's still no like full coding environment, no real 3D design tools, no local AI workflows, and if you're a power user, you'll hit the walls. There's also like smaller things that just stack up over time. Like for example, Control Center only opens on the iPad even if you click it on your monitor. You can't close the iPad and use it in clamshell mode. Web apps like just aggressively push you towards the native app, and drag and drop too low, like with your apps and your dock just disappears, and screen sharing only works from the iPad display itself. For casual users, none of this might actually matter, but if you use Pro Tools every day, these little things can get frustrating really fast. For me, I'm already using the iPad as like my laptop replacement, but I find myself actually reaching for the iPad more than ever. I only reach for my Mac when I really need that horsepower. It really just comes down to this: do you want flexibility or do you want full desktop freedom? Anyways, if you guys like this video, make sure to give it a like and share it to a friend. And if you like Apple tech or desk setup related content or iPad content, make sure to subscribe, and I will catch you guys in the next video. Peace.